Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the country agrees with the U.S. proposals for a ceasefire with Ukraine. The United Nations denounced Israel for the several forms of sexual and gender-based violence against the Palestinian people. And the Argentine police repressed brutally on Wednesday senior retirees and football fans who were rallying against President Milei's neoliberal policies. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. And on Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the country agrees with the U.S. proposals for a ceasefire with Ukraine. However, the president assured this ceasefire must lead to a lasting peace and eliminate the root causes of the Ukrainian crisis. Let's recall U.S. negotiators are in Russia to present their plan for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. In this context, Putin assured that any proposal has to be a long-term solution and that he needs to speak to U.S. President Donald Trump as he has a number of questions and concerns regarding this deal moving forward.
We agree with proposals to end hostilities. But we believe that this cessation must be one that leads to long-term peace and addresses the root causes of this crisis.
The Russian president also expressed his reservations regarding Kiev's compliance with the agreement in the event that it is achieved.
If we halt the hostilities for 30 days, what will it mean? Will all those who are there, in the Kursk region, come out without a fight? Should we just let them out after all the crimes against civilians they committed? Or will the Ukrainian leadership order them to lay down arms and simply surrender? How will it work? It's not clear.
In this regard, President Putin expressed his support for the idea of concluding the conflict with Ukraine through peaceful means.
So the idea itself is correct, and we certainly support it. But there are issues that we need to discuss, and I think that we need to discuss it with our American colleagues and partners. Maybe call President Trump and discuss it together. Overall, we support the idea to end the conflict by peaceful means.
Russian President Vladimir Putin received his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko, who arrived in Moscow on Thursday for an official visit. The Russian president described relations between Russia and Belarus as special relations of cooperation and brotherhood, recalling the historical ties that unite the two nations. Lukashenko, for his part, stressed the very high level of bilateral relations, noting that together with Russia, they form a unique entity in the form of the State of Union. It is planned that the heads of state discuss key issues for the further development of the binational strategic partnership and alliances. The United Nations denounced Israel for the several forms of sexual and gender-based violence against the Palestinian people. The report reveals the increase in different forms of abuses by the Israeli forces in which the females are the majority of victims. The document accuses Tel Aviv regime of turning this type of violence into a strategy of domination and elimination of the Palestinian people that violates the right to self-determination of the peoples. In this regard, the multilateral organization urges the international community to participate in the ongoing investigations.
This morning we published a report titled "More Than a Human Can Bear," dealing with Israel's systematic use of sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence since 7 October 2023. Our report finds that Israel has increasingly employed sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence against Palestinians as part of a broader effort to undermine their right to self-determination. It also concludes that Israel has carried out genocidal acts through the systematic destruction of sexual and reproductive healthcare facilities.
And released Palestinians announced the severe tortures they had gone through while they had been kept in Israeli prisons. On a joint communique, the Commission of Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs and the Palestinian Prisoners Club unfolded testimonies of the released Palestinians as evidence that Israeli authorities tortured them on their time in prisons. Both entities specifically denounced that in the Negev Israeli prison, inmates have been suffering from starvation due to the fact that they use this to receive little food. In addition, they rejected the policy of humiliation prison authorities have upheld against Palestinians. Several sworn statements confirm Israeli officers used to keeping detainees seated and handcuffed to iron beds, most of the time, as a way of breaking them psychologically. And on Wednesday, the UN Special Rapporteur, Michael Faki, warned that the Zionist regime of Israel is carrying out an unprecedented famine campaign in the Gaza Strip. During a press conference in the city of Geneva, Switzerland, the rapporteur explained that by restricting access to humanitarian aid in the Palestinian enclave, Benjamin Netanyahu's government has carried out the fastest campaign in modern history. And the Egyptian government, in its capacity as mediator between Hamas and Israel, is advocating a plan that will lead the Palestinians to peace and real justice for the sake of stability in the region. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has ratified the establishment of a Palestinian state as the only solution to the displacement of Palestinians in their territory due to the Israeli genocide and occupation. It also recalled that the Egyptian leader presented to the Arab League an initiative to rebuild Gaza within 5 years at an estimated cost of $53 billion without the need to displace its people. The plan will be developed in 3 phases: emergency aid, shelter, and reconstruction under international supervision, with funds provided by the international community. We now have our first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Vatican press office reported that Pope Francis spent a peaceful night after having confirmed his health condition is on the mend on the 12th anniversary of his pontificate. The Holy See detailed no further initiative to celebrate the commemoration, even though the chest X-ray performed on Pope Francis corroborated his health improvement. Almost a month earlier, the Pope had been admitted into Gemelli Hospital in Rome due to his bilateral pneumonia alongside other collateral respiratory issues. After having overcome several crises, Francis' health condition is no longer in a reserved prognosis. Currently, his physicians reveal he is out of imminent danger. In the United States, protesters gathered at Trump Tower in New York City to demand the release of Columbia University student and Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil, who was arbitrarily arrested and remains in immigration custody. Khalil, who was a lead organizer of activities to denounce Israel's genocidal operations on Palestine at the university, was detained by ICE on Saturday. The demonstrations to demand his release, which were organized by a progressive Jewish group, occupied the Trump Tower, chanting slogans such as "Bring Mahmoud home now." Amid Trump administration attacks on universities over pro-Palestinian protests, observers say Khalil is being used as a test case for mass arrests, while Trump has expressed his arrest is the first of many to come amid threats to deport students.
We are hoping to help spread the word and support the protests that are happening all over the country in support of Mahmoud Khalil, demanding that his unconstitutional abduction be revoked, demanding he is freed, but also calling on people everywhere to speak up now.
I'm just standing up for my rights, and I'm standing up for Mahmoud Khalil, who has been abducted illegally and taken to an undisclosed location. Does that sound like America to you?
The United States and Venezuela agreed to resume migrant repatriation flights starting this Friday, March 14th. Washington Special Envoy Richard Grenell announced the agreement through his social media X. Previously, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, said that the sanctions against the oil company Chevron affected the new channel of communication with the U.S. authorities and the repatriation flights of migrants. In addition, the Venezuelan government reaffirmed that most of the returnees are people who migrated in search of economic horizons, and just a few of them have criminal records. In this regard, the Venezuelan government informed through a communique that within the framework of the Return to the Homeland Plan, it has reached an agreement with the Special Envoy Richard Grenell to repatriate Venezuelan brothers and sisters who are in the United States. The statement follows the Bolivarian government of Venezuela, thus protects the human rights of our migrants compatriots and defends and safeguards the reunification of families that have been victims of the serious consequences that the criminal sanctions against Venezuela and its economy produce in its people, and that provoke the departure of hardworking and dignified people to other destinations in search of other alternatives. The Mexican government announced on Thursday that it will conduct a consultation with the sectors affected by the tariff systems imposed by the United States. Economy Secretary Marcelo Ebrard also assured that Mexico will be firm in its actions. In a morning conference from the National Palace, the official pointed out that Mexico has done better than other countries due to his country's integration with the United States. The high official also assured that the nation will face, according to its interests, the decisions that Washington may take.
In short, we are going to make the necessary consultations, and we are going to prepare ourselves to move all the tools we have according to what is convenient for Mexico.
The President of Mexico reiterated that she is awaiting official announcements from the U.S. government to take measures to benefit and defend the nation's interests.
So let's wait for the announcement on April 2nd and from there take our decisions. There is no point in announcing today one and then another, but really from the package that the United States presents, take our decisions to protect and develop Mexico's economy.
We now have our second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. So follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date with the world's most recent events. Final short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. The Argentine police repressed brutally on Wednesday senior retirees and football fans who were rallying against President Milei's neoliberal policies. The Milei administration, namely Security Minister Patricia Bullrich, had ordered officers to exert repression since early afternoon on Wednesday to scatter picketers crowded in front of the Congress Square. In the protest, demonstrators, including senior citizens, were expressing peacefully their rejection to the belt-tightening governmental measures. By the time federal corps attacked them with pepper sprays, tear gas, rubber bullets, and water cannons. As a result, about 20 civilians were injured. Several are in critical condition, as the case of photojournalist Pablo Grillo, since an officer threw a tear gas canister into his head. And on Thursday, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro led the working day of the Great Southern Homeland Project. The Venezuelan president praised the work carried out for the reactivation of the Venezuelan economy. The head of state also praised the change that the Venezuelan economy has undergone to have a more diversified economy thanks to the efforts and resilience of its people. Furthermore, President Maduro condemned sanctions that are trying to cripple the nation, pointing out that imperialism has failed in its attempt to take over Venezuela. In this context, he announced that the country produces 97% of its food, declaring that against sanctions and blockades, the country achieved food security and the goal is to produce 100% and more for export.
So there was a complete blockade. In the history of the world, it is called a siege. So anything comes in or comes out until the people surrender. So from the homeland there was a cry from the neighborhood when the people said, nobody will surrender here. Your mother will surrender.
Former Peruvian President Pedro Castillo was hospitalized in Lima due to a health decompensation after starting a hunger strike to protest against his trial. Pedro Castillo's health decompensated in the Barbadillo prison after he went on a hunger strike in rejection of the oral trial on the failed coup d'etat on December 7, 2022. Castillo's public defender asked for the hearing to be suspended. However, the representatives of the prosecutor's office replied and indicated that since the defendant's legal representative was present, the session could continue. After a brief debate, Supreme Judge Norma Carvajal said that the trial would not be suspended because it was a provoked unilateral act. And the General Confederation of Workers of Peru called its affiliates for a national mobilization on Thursday in rejection of the labor reform promoted by the government. The protest seeks to demand the withdrawal of the so-called Early Agenda 2025 promoted by the Ministry of Labor and Employment Promotion. According to unionists, this regulation seeks to eliminate essential labor rights such as compensation for time of service and bonuses, which would affect millions of workers. The movement denounced the proposal is detrimental to labor rights and urged the working class to prevent, with unity and struggle, the development of enactment of this agenda. And for the third consecutive day, Chilean health workers mobilized to denounce the lack of labor guarantees by the government of Gabriel Boric. In this regard, the National Confederation of Municipal Health Officials stated that there is an adverse parliament that cuts the budget allocated to healthcare in the country. Furthermore, they highlighted ongoing management difficulties due to economic deficiency and lack of answers from the executive power and the Ministry of Health. In this context, the union demands include police protection in institutions located in high-risk areas and the supply of medicines and medical sources. In Belize, re-elected Prime Minister John Briceño was sworn in for a second term. During the ceremony, the Prime Minister reaffirmed his commitment to defend the Constitution and called for keeping arrogance under control, instructing his colleagues to keep him firmly in office in the event of an impeachment. It should be noted that the general elections were held last March 12th, during which out of 31 parliamentary seats in dispute, the People's United Party won 26, while the opposing United Democratic Party only won 5, giving a resounding victory to the ruling party. The turnout in this election was 64.9% compared to the 81.8% recorded in the 2020 general elections. And in this context, the Cuban government congratulated the re-elected Prime Minister of Belize while ratifying its willingness to deepen relations of cooperation and solidarity between the two nations. Through a post on social media, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel said, "We congratulate our friend John Briceño for the victory achieved by his party in the general elections in Belize. We ratify our will to continue deepening the relations of cooperation and solidarity between both countries." Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.